Some background information. My sister-in-law has always been a stuck-up bee. She is quiet, tense, and very irritable. There is absolutely no warmth in this woman. She comes from a well-off family and looks down on anybody whose manners aren't up to par with her standards. She's been with my brother since she was 22, and even back then, she tried to keep her distance from our family. He'd always invite her to family events like weddings, christenings, dinners, and so on, but she's always rejected. The only time she did accompany my brother to a family event was for 3 separate funerals, which my brother admitted he had to force her into coming. My family are very loving and outgoing. We love to hug and show each other we care. At my grandpa's funeral 8 years ago, my sister-in-law behaved strangely the whole time. We told her to sit with us in the front few rows of the church, and she refused, giving some half-baked excuse like, "I didn't know him. I don't need to be involved with this." So she spent the service sitting at the back of the church by herself. She's just ice cold. After at my house, my aunt tried to offer her a sandwich, and she kept refusing. My aunt knew that my sister-in-law hadn't eaten anything all day, so she kept insisting that she take a sandwich. But my sister-in-law kept refusing, until she eventually exploded and batted the sandwich out of my aunt's hands, saying, "I told you I don't want it. Go away." She's way too sensitive. I confronted her once and asked what her problem was. She claimed that she knew my family disliked her, saying things like, "It's obvious you don't like me. Why would I want to spend time with people who throw me dirty looks?" I'm rambling, but the point is, she thinks she's better than everybody. She doesn't like the fact that my family are working class. My brother was perfectly happy being a carpenter at my dad's shop, but then he met her, and suddenly, being a carpenter wasn't good enough. She filled his head with all types of crap, telling him that he was too young, 24 at the time, to settle for a low-paying job that he doesn't even like, and that he should do a training course or go to college to find a better career. She ended up enrolling him in some training course and got him a high-paying sales job through her nepotism connections. She also encouraged him to lose weight and get fit. He wasn't even fat, just a little pudgy. I don't like how much she changed him. He was still living at home when he met her, but she told him to get his own place or else she'd dump him. So he spent whatever savings he had paying for rent he couldn't even afford, just to impress her. This was before his sales job. One time, my mother confronted her and said she didn't like how much my brother was changing. My sister-in-law just rolled her eyes and accused us of holding him back from fulfilling his true potential. Then she called us uneducated. Anyway, so they moved away together 7 years ago. During this time, we never saw her, but I'd still call my brother every now and then. Eventually, we lost contact and didn't keep in touch. They didn't even tell us that they had a baby. I only found out 4 years after a rare Christmas call with my brother. So, the current situation. My brother died. I found out through somebody who used to work with him. I couldn't ducking believe it. So, my family and I drove to that bee's house to get the truth. She straight up admitted that he'd been killed 3 months ago after falling off his bike and hitting his head. We were all devastated and started crying loudly, to which she responded, "Please keep your voices down. I'm not in the mood for this. It's very late." We asked her why she didn't invite us to his funeral, and she just said there was no funeral, that she just had him cremated privately because she didn't want to make a big deal out of it. I said, "He's dead. It is a big deal. Why didn't you tell us he was dead?" She shrugs. "I don't know your phone numbers. I was stressed and upset. I didn't want to deal with it. I was going to send you a letter but didn't know if you still lived in the same address. I kept putting it off. I don't know." Then she started talking about how none of us had made any effort to stay in contact with him over the years, and said something like, "If you didn't care about him when he was alive, why turn up now?" I lost my temper and slapped her. The others had to pull me off her. She said she wouldn't call the police as long as I never contact her again. I don't know what to do. What if I want a relationship with my niece in the future? How do I get closure? Your poor sister-in-law. I feel for her. Sounds like your brother met a woman who encouraged him to be his best self. She encouraged him, and he got fit. He went to college. He got a good job. He moved out of the house. And rather than your family looking at him and his achievements, you only viewed it as, wow, she is horrible. She is turning him into something he isn't. All of those things you listed are great things, and all you could do is blame her and act like she was some sort of evil witch. The part where she said she doesn't want to spend time around people who don't like her is telling. You said your whole family is loving and outgoing, but it doesn't look like you are accepting of anything except your own kind. Not loud, not huggy, clearly a cold and horrible person. And I am sure she was well aware of your contempt for her being different. Frankly, I wouldn't want to be around people who were shooting me dirty looks all the time too. Which, from the way you talk about her and your brother's success after meeting her, I am 100% certain your family did. In the end, your brother chose her, the woman who encouraged him, rather than discouraged him from being anything different than the rest of you. He made a choice not to call you, just as you apparently haven't called him. It isn't like you have made any attempts to reach out to him in the last 3 months minimum. And now, she is a single mother and widow whose husband's family drove over late at night and attacked her. 2 important things to know before we get to the main story. First, before my sister-in-law got pregnant, we would catch up via Skype. Significant other, brother-in-law, her, and I, every 3 or 4 months. This is important. They live in Europe. We live in North America. We see each other once every 3 years apparently, and don't speak frequently. Second, I have spent the last 2.5 to 3 years coaching my cousin, 30 female, have been together through thick and thin my whole life, through medically assisted pregnancy, miscarriages, and abortion because of positive trisomy, 18 inseminations, you name it. I know what a person who wants their privacy respected looks sounds like. She now has a gorgeous baby girl, but sadly, she and I hardly speak since the birth because I remind her of this whole nasty phase in her life, and she doesn't want that at the moment, which I respect and have compassion for, even though it hurts like hell to have been there for all that crap and not be able to see the smiles and the cooing. There isn't an ounce of nastiness in this woman, and I fully understand her position. If I, for example, triggered someone's PTSD, I should have the maturity to let them deal with that and contact me when ready. She and I were, hopefully still are, time will tell, very close. Anyway, main story. My sister-in-law has been pregnant for 4.5 months now. It's her first, and we were told approximately 1 month and 1 week in. We were very happy for her and her significant other, congratulated the both of them, asked how they were doing, then talked about the usual what's going on in your lives stuff, as we do once every approximate trimester. Since that day, we haven't had them on Skype. We didn't ask and they didn't ask, but this is very unusual. It's been like this for the past 5 years or so. Yesterday, my significant other and I got an email from our sister-in-law basically telling us she's not judging us, but that she's very disappointed in both of our behaviors, since we didn't ask once how she was doing, how the baby was doing, what's going on for them pregnancy-wise, etc. She says our indifference is surprising, and the fact that we don't care about her or her baby says a lot also. She said that since we didn't ask about them or anything, well, they fell in a pattern of not saying or sending anything, meaning midwife visits, news, first sonogram, first kicks, because apparently they're not welcome. She goes on to say that we're depriving her baby of positive waves from the people she and her husband love, with those ducking quotes every time a sentence is supposed to have some weight. Like it's our responsibility that she can't give her 4-month utero fetus positive waves. That she was expecting more attention from us, since I'm a specialist who works with pregnant women and babies, young children. From experience, it's a lot easier to let pregnant women tell you where they're at, and in the case of a miscarriage, let them bring it up when they are ready out of respect for their intimacy. She doesn't want to keep being subjected to our callous indifference in silence, and ends this email with a nonchalant, "This is more of an act of kindness towards myself than me pointing the finger on you. I hope you understand." So, my reaction was immediate anger, because this feels unfair. I feel like she basically set us up to fail by having secret expectations of us that break the pattern we were used to and apparently fine with. No complaints about news exchange frequency for over 5 years. We answered in a very diplomatic email, stating that we understood her feelings and that my significant other and I, both being in a field where we meet people with issues and quite a lot of pregnant, infertile, sterile women, we are used to letting people come forward with what they choose to share. We tell her about how sometimes, when you are too close, as happened with my cousin, things can get difficult afterwards, and this is also why we thought it best to let them catch us up when they felt like it. But it's great news that she feels like she wants to share. We'd be glad to know whatever. We thought this would be the end of it. Well, nope. This morning, a new email, dripping with condescension, giving us a lecture on what normal people behave like, that anyone who doesn't want to share about their pregnancy and such is a dysfunctional a-hole. This directed at cousin, yet my whole family is like this, and she knows this. She then goes on about cousin being unfair to me, and that sister-in-law would have loved to have me care that much about her, but apparently, I have double standards, don't I? I've known sister-in-law since I was 25, and she and I are not close. As I said, one 40-minute chat every 3 or 4 months. She educates us on how our behavior will one day duck us up the butt, as it is with her today, and any and everyone in our circle of relations that might fall pregnant any time in the future. Basically, speculating they will all consider us to be a-holes. She says the reason they told us so early was because in case something bad happened, she wanted support. First we heard about it. And wow, lucky something didn't, right? She says we should have poked and prodded and asked, etc. all the time, just so she knew we were there, just in case. Then, it's almost scary how abruptly the tone changes. She's suddenly elated, and she switches to gleefully rambling on about everything she's experiencing for a solid 6 paragraphs, down to stuff that is of absolutely no relevance. As in midwife names. We will never meet or see them. Now, I am not only angry, I am hurt. I feel like I've been attacked in my career's validity. I feel that I've been attacked regarding my family and how we function. I feel terribly angry and hurt that she would dare be so out of place regarding my cousin and what she went through. If I can be compassionate and respectful and give her time, being the main person hurt by this decision, I think sister-in-law, who has no place in this situation, should be able to be less insulting. I don't know how to answer sister-in-law. Quite honestly, I don't ever want to. I am experienced with pregnant women, and I know they have emotional outbursts. I know hormonal fluctuations can make them feel unloved, ugly, depressed, sad. I know her feelings feel valid to her. However, I feel like she felt all these things, was overwhelmed by them, and found some way to rationalize them by putting significant other and I responsible for making them rain down on her. I also know that these feelings don't come out of nowhere, and that there's probably some stuff here that she thought before but never told. I quite honestly don't want to speak with her again. She feels like she cleared the air, congratulated herself and her maturity in her email for daring speak out loud about things and not letting them fester. Feels like all is well, and I feel like I've been treated very poorly and want to blast my keyboard the duck up. She accused us of not caring when we did, and now she thinks we care, yet we no longer give a flying duck about all this. I don't want the family to blow up because of a lapse in judgment on her part or ours. I don't want it to blow up because we couldn't get some perspective or take the high road. Do any of you know how I can answer and set things straight without making a pregnant woman cry and or hate herself? Is there another way some of you would deal with this? Should I just listen to her yammer on every now and then? Set an alarm every 5 or 6 days to remind me to courteously ask her about the basic minimum I no longer care about knowing, as in, what's up? Should I be passive or diplomatic? I am lost, and so is my significant other, who is hurt and angry as well. Because the same way I coached my cousin through her situation, my significant other coached me through the tears and pain of being left aside, and he knows how deep our sister-in-law's words cut me. She got butthurt because you didn't start checking in on her, when in your life you've never talked more than every 3 or 4 months? She sounds like the type that would turn it if you did start calling and say, "Oh, now suddenly they care because I'm having a baby." I'd just let it go. You're not going to win no matter what. Let your husband and his brother continue their relationship and continue as you have all along. Send a lovely gift. My wife told me a couple days ago her sister would be getting married on the weekend of my 30th birthday on the other side of the world. I will have to stay home, alone, with our toddler for a week taking care of him. Alone. I'm pretty deeply upset she is even considering being a part of this. Her sister has always had it out for me since the beginning of our relationship, 8 years. She is a doctor and looks down on any and all people who don't have MDs or JDs. She tried to break apart our relationship in all stages, but because my wife and I have a great relationship, and her sister do not, my wife sees through her Miami high-rise South Beach clubbing Mercedes-Benz lifestyle. These attempts have always been brushed off as being sourced in her superficiality. I really dislike her, but I'm fortunate to be able to avoid contact entirely. Her whole family, in fact, will not even speak to me. Never have. Save her mother on a handful of occasions in 8 years, getting married and baby, have never even met her brother, a cardiologist, and was also put into the awkward position of being not invited while my wife was, and having to be babysitter for his wedding. But now my sister-in-law is getting married in Milan, and my wife is considering going to be a part of her wedding. We really don't have it in the budget for world travel, but it's not an impossible expenditure. However, I'm not invited. I was told I could come to Italy, but have nothing to do with the wedding, aka take care of the kiddo and generally be alone. No thanks. My wife doesn't want to fly for 18-ish hours alone with our son, so I will be home alone with a 2-year-old on my 30th birthday. No family or friends in our area, rural. We are a very strong family unit, and last year for her 30th birthday, we all went to Hawaii. Her going to Milan would be the budget we had planned for my birthday vacation. Far more modest, a weekend driving getaway to a national park. She thinks I'm overreacting and should respect her family, despite them showing me absolutely none. Am I that wrong to be upset about this? I don't go anywhere my spouse is not welcome. Your wife should feel the same. You are her family. When you got married, her family of origin became her extended family. At least, that's what should have happened. How the hell did you manage to alienate your wife's entire family? How has your wife not told her sister to eat lead and made you part of her family? My wife's family are Arab immigrants from Lebanon. Her brother, sister, and probably 90% of her cousins have an MD or a JD or both. I'm garbage to them. Just to be clear, I'm great to their daughter, have no criminal history, never cheated, and a very solid but varied work history. They only see that I am not a doctor and don't make 6 figures. She is a definite black sheep. Her family has no respect for her whatsoever. She has been broken down more times than I can count and come to me with things her family have done and said to her. Maybe her mother respects her a tad bit, but barely. Especially when you see how she treats her brother and sister. I have tried to get her to realize their views and the way they treat family is not normal. She knows that, but cannot completely break bonds. She has been to a therapist once, who told her to break bonds. Still, cannot give up those relationships, and I cannot force her. Love her and my son more than anything, and the fact we live 2,000 miles from any of them makes it something I can deal with mostly by ignoring it.